start this video. Let me get a little baby pole in really quick. Woo! She's a little quick. She's a little quick. Okay, tires are still a little cold. How is it going, guys? Drew Peacock here, back with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the best cheap cars to modify. There's obviously a lot of good options out there, but some of them will cost you an arm and a leg or a couple trips to the sperm bank, if you know what I'm saying. Today, though, we're going to be talking about the best cheap cars. Maybe you're looking for your first car, you want to get into the car scene. I'm going to close the valves just so you can hear me a little bit better. But maybe you're looking for a cheap car. Maybe you're looking for another project. Maybe you want to get into the car scene. Whatever your circumstances, I'm going to give you guys the undeniable best list for the best cheap cars to modify. I'm looking for cars less than $10,000, and even then, a lot of these cars you'll find for maybe even less than $5,000. Anyways, I can't promise you good condition on them, but they're the best cheap cars to modify. It is what it is. Let's start out with number one, and I'm sure this is on a lot of people's lists. If you're looking to get into the car scene, the first best car I think you can start out with, if you want to modify it, is of course the old EG, EK, Honda Civic, Integras, anything with a B series. Don't go for anything with a single cam. You could get something with a K series as well, but you might see that those are drifting more into like the teens price range. But old B series motors, hands down, one of the best cars to modify. There are a few cons with it that I will talk about in a second, but with that car you get great handling, you get solid power, and what it is isn't necessarily, you know, oh, this thing's making 500 horsepower. No, it's not going to do that, but you're going to make good power to weight ratio. If your car makes 200 wheel horsepower but it only weighs 2,500 pounds, that's a fast car. That's quick. It's nimble. It's going to feel like a go-kart on steroids. In my opinion, that's one of the greatest cheap cars to modify. I mean, like I said, those, I got my EG for $5,000. I maybe put another $5,000 into it, and it made 500 horsepower to the wheels with a turbo K series. Easily would have gapped Hellcats. I beat my buddy's Whipple Mustang. I mean, it was a fast car. So depending on what your goal is, the EG, EK, anything with a B series might be the way to go. And you can find them in sedans or coupes as well. So if you're looking for something that's in the sedan variant, this is one of the few options that I think is a good option when it comes to that. Now the cons. One, it's a Honda. You're not really going to be swimming in pussy, if you know what I'm saying. Another con, they are notoriously known to get stolen. Wow, this road sucks. Jesus, chose the wrong way to go. Anyways, they're notoriously known to get stolen. They still get stolen a lot. Hey, Z06, I think. We'll go catch up to him and maybe he'll play around. But yeah, in light of Hellcats being stolen and 6th gen Camaros and Corvettes and stuff, personally, mine never got messed with at all. And I don't live in like the greatest area. I live in a good area, but it never got messed with. I parked it on the street. I did box it in, but yeah, if you got a garage, I wouldn't even sweat it. Is it a Grand Sport or is it a Z06? Let me open up my valve so he knows that I'm oh, it is a Z06. That's sick. You hear that, ZR1 power, buddy? I was actually looking at those, and that is not a good cheap car to modify, simply because it's not cheap. Anyways, EG Civic, good. There's a couple cons. Let's move on. Next car, let's say you're looking for something V8 powered. A little American muscle might tickle your balls, if you know what I'm saying. New Edge Mustangs, SN95 and or 3 valves depending on price. Great cars to modify. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's a Mustang, oh, Ford fix or repair daily. My 3 valve was pretty bulletproof, and I bought it modified already. It was pretty bulletproof. It only started to act up once I started adding like some serious power. But you can make out of a 3 valve about 450 to 500 horsepower. 450 torque is the max I would make out of it. And then out of a New Edge is about 400. So 400 to 500 horsepower for both those cars is pretty safe, but I wouldn't go much more than that. And with that though, you get a rear-wheel drive V8. The car's pretty reliable. They last forever. They look pretty good. I love how New Edges look. I love how 3 valves look, and you can make them look even cooler. Whether you do like a Terminator kit or like a GT500 kit on the 3-valve, you can make them look pretty nice. Like I do like my 3-valve. It's not my favorite body style. I still always get bricked up whenever I see 13 and 14s, but you know, 2005 to 2009 3-valve, you can find those for relatively cheap and you can make some good power out of them. And since it's a rear-wheel drive car, you could also use them to drift. So it's a little bit more versatile in that sense. You could drift them. If you want to build it for a road course or track, you can do that. Drag racing, roll racing, show car, stance them out. They're really versatile. Aftermarket support is great. It's also really cheap to mod. This is a car that I really do push people towards. Not because I'm a Mustang fanboy. I'm really not. It's just because it's a great platform. If you want to get into modifying cars, working on cars, you can't really go wrong with a Mustang. There's a reason why they haven't stopped making them after 60 plus years. It's just a solid, it's a damn solid car. Anyways, I don't need to glaze Mustangs too much. I guess a couple cons. One, yeah, you're gonna hear a lot of people say a crowd killer a lot. And two, some people don't like the interiors and just some of the Ford quality stuff. So there is that. They don't really get stolen though, and they make decent power stock. Fun car, looks good, sounds good, and it's cheap. Can't ask for much more than that. All right, next up, this one, if I was building a high horsepower car, this is the car I would buy. And it's a SC300. If I wanted to build a 1,000+ horsepower car for cheap, I'm buying an SC300. These cars are ridiculously cheap, and they come with a JZ, and if you buy the right ones, it comes with a very, very nice JZ that all you got to do is throw a turbo on, swap out your transmission, and you can make 700, 800, 900 horsepower. It's very, very easy in those cars. Yes, with all these cars, it's going to cost money to make power. But if you have like a goal to make 1,000 horsepower, I don't think it would get much cheaper than like an SC300. It is a very, very cheap car. There are some cons to it as well. One, they're not necessarily the lightest car ever. Two, they're not necessarily the greatest looking car ever. And three, they're usually in pretty bad shape by now. It's a very popular takeover car to an extent. That's how Alex built his. He found a guy that was selling his takeover car and saved it. He rescued it and restored it to what it is now. But yeah, the SC300, if I was just like, hey, I want to build a fast drag car, SC300 is what I'm building. You can make on the stock block, if you buy the GE non-VVTi, you can make 700, 800 horsepower pretty reliably on those. If you buy something where you got to build the block anyways, well then you're going to make 1,000 on any of those. But I feel like stock block, this is probably your best bet for the most amount of horsepower. Again, it doesn't come with the great looks of the Supra, but it is very, very similar to the Supra. It's a very similar chassis. It's a little bit longer. Doors are a little bit more dog shit. Interior is up to you if you like that or not. But yeah, the only major cons I can think of is they're ugly. That's like the biggest one. Other than that, I mean, you could throw a T56 in them. A lot of super parts transfer over. There's a very big aftermarket support for that as well. So can't really go wrong with an SC300. Besides it being a dog shit, ugly looking fucking car, I really don't like how they look. And I just got to make that clear in this video. But for the price, it's a good car to modify. All right, let's get into an honorable mention. I hate this car with a passion, but it belongs on this list. I really do hate this car. The Mazda Miata. Ugh, I hate that car so much. NA Miatas, NB Miatas. Besides the people that, I know what I got, bro, they're asking 10, 15 grand for their Miatas, you can find them still for relatively cheap. Probably the NBs a little bit more, but it's a solid car. If you want a track car, if you want a canyon car, if you want a fun power to weight ratio car, something nimble, a driver's car, this is a great option for you. I think the NB Miata is a lot better than the NA Miata. I think the NA is really starting to show its age. I think the amount of clean examples of NA Miatas for sale are far and few in between. I would just go for an NB. I think it's a better looking car. Yeah, you don't get pop-up headlights, but you're also not a TikTok e-girl, so NB Miata is what I would get. Great aftermarket support, great track car. It's a solid car. I gotta give respect where respect is due. And this is how you know I need an alignment. We're on a turn right now and I'm just staying in my lane perfectly. This is great. It's got auto drive. Did you guys know that? Anyways, NB Miata. I gotta give respect where respect is due. The only cons of it I can think of is, yeah, it's a Miata. It's not the fastest thing ever. You're not buying this to drag race or oil race. You're buying this for a canyon car, a little nimble backroads car. Fun car though. Gotta give it to the Miata for that. But let me know what you guys think. Am I unjustly just a hater of the Miata? I don't think so. TikTok ruined that car for me. All right, the last car. I did want to include a sedan on this list. I couldn't think of any great sedan. I was thinking of like the G8, but that was it. There's not really many sedan options that I would highly recommend. The only one that comes to mind, and I don't know where these are price-wise, is the IS300. And even then, it's got some cons as well. The IS300 though comes with a 2JZ GE VVTi. Not as strong as the SC300's motor. You can make 400, 450 wheel on these, which is still fast. But yeah, you're not going to be blowing off the doors of like, you know, modified Hellcats or modified Mustangs and stuff like that. These cars do look pretty decent. The major cons of these is people ask an arm and a leg for them because they think they're worth a whole lot when they're really not. And they're also just usually pretty thrashed by now. It's pretty hard finding a clean example of these. I also know there's a few things if you are going for high horsepower that isn't the easiest to do. I know the fuel tank is a little finicky. It's got like kind of two separate tanks that are kind of like, it's hard to explain. I'm not an IS300 guy. If you're an IS300 guy, explain down below. But you can make good power on these. If you buy one for cheap, build the motor, throw in a R154, CD009, or a T56, yeah, you can make 1,000 horsepower out of these pretty easily. It's a solid platform. I couldn't think of another sedan. I wanted to include a sedan just in case somebody's parents, like mine were when I was getting my first car, were like, you need to get a sedan for the insurance. I'm not trusting you in a two-door. Well, mother, I'm in a two-door now, and I haven't crashed it yet. Regardless, though, I can't think of another sedan option. Maybe if you guys have any good options, comment them down below. But yeah, that's my list of the best cheap cars to modify. If I were you, I wouldn't go get a Subaru. I wouldn't go get an Evo. I wouldn't go get a salvage title car. I wouldn't go get a BMW. Not if your parameters are looking for a cheap car to modify. Those cars are not going to be cheap in the long run. They might be cheap buy-in, but they won't be cheap in the long run. Anyway, I think we have a pretty fun turn up here. We'll take this turn pretty spirited. And yeah, we'll wrap up this video. I'm trying to think, any last minute thoughts, any last minute honorable mentions. 350Z was a car that came to mind, but I don't really think buying a cheap 350Z is a good idea. You're gonna buy a DE. DE's not really worth modifying. I wouldn't do it. G35s and G37s, yeah, if you find a clean example that hasn't been to every takeover in the West Coast, then sure. But at the same time, those are just cop magnets right now. The cops really do not like G35 owners. My buddy, he has a track purpose built like G37, and it's fast. But yeah, there's a few downsides with those as well. Ooh, I can't wait to take this bad boy on the track. This thing's gonna be fun. Oh, we're hitting some active handling. Wow, I gotta make sure when I go to the track I turn that shit off. I guess my front tires were chirping a little bit and it slammed on the brakes for me. But yeah, that's my list. If you guys have any better ideas, comment them down below. You guys can also help each other out in the comments. My list is the greatest list out there, so yeah, don't at me. I don't think anyone can make a better list. Anyways, guys, subscribe, and until next video, peace.